Hi guys, it's Janice. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, this channel is called Sharp Cookie, and I do all sorts of things related to learning, studying, test taking, problem solving, all of that fun stuff. And I'm a tutor. I've been tutoring for about 5 years. I have many hours of tutoring experience, all different types of subjects. And today we're going to be talking about the Mensa IQ test practice test. Now you can find this test on the Mensa International website, and I'm going to link that up below so that you can easily find it. I'm also going to show you how you can Google it and get to that practice test because it's free. So unlike a lot of IQ practice tests that I found online that are either really not that good or they make you pay either to take it or to get some kind of results, this practice test you can do online. It's not timed, although you can time yourself if you want, and it'll also tell you which problems you got right and wrong. So I thought today we would go through the practice test together. I'm not going to go through every single problem because a lot of these problems aren't even teachable. So I'm going to really focus on problems that I think are teachable, and whether you want to take the Mensa IQ test or not, it's just fun to do some IQ test problems. So that's what we're doing today. If you haven't seen any of my other videos yet, I've made another video on when I actually took the Mensa IQ test. So I go through the types of problems I saw, what I expected, what I didn't expect. And I also have another video that I filmed afterwards where I give you my results and I show you the exact email and I tell you like what types of scores they show you, and I explain the percentiles. So go ahead and watch those videos after this one. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm Googling Mensa IQ test. And it's the first option that comes up. It's called the workout. And if you read the instructions, they recommend that you take this test in about 30 minutes. So take that as you like. Because I'm explaining it, we're going to take a little longer per problem than you normally would. Okay, so this first problem is about pattern finding with numbers. Now, if you have a lot of experience with numbers, this will probably be very easy for you. And if you don't, it will probably be impossible. So I would categorize this problem as something that is not really teachable. Now, can you learn it and spend a lot of time on math problems and getting a better number sense, which is your comfort and ability with numbers and pattern finding? Yes. Is that going to happen in a 2-minute explanation from me? No. This sort of thing you develop over time with doing a lot of problems. So this first one, for some people it might be obvious. It's 1600 because it's one of the perfect squares. So Sally likes all perfect squares. Now again, you either saw that pattern or you didn't. So I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, this next problem I do want to explain. It is teachable. So if 2 typists can type 2 pages in 2 minutes, how many typists will it take to type 18 pages in 6 minutes? So this is your classic rate problem. What you want to figure out is what one person can do. In this case, if 2 typists type 2 pages in 2 minutes, that means one person can type a page every 2 minutes. And if you come to that conclusion, you can pretty easily figure out the rest. So they want to know how many can type 18 pages in 6 minutes. Well, one person, if they're typing one every 2 minutes, in 6 minutes, they'll get to 3. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I'm going to need 6 typists. What is a number that is 1/2 of 1/4 of 1/10 of 400? So this is another one that with a little bit of math practice is not that hard to do. When you're dealing with fractions and percents like this, you just want to multiply them all. And because it's multiplication, order doesn't matter. So what I would do is write out 1/2 times 1/4, which is 1/4, times 1/10 times 400. So you could do this step by step in your head and say, okay, 1/10 of 400. Well, I move the decimal place over 1, so that's 40. And then I need 1/4 of that, so that's 10. And then I need 1/2 of that, so the answer would be 5. If you count from 1 to 100, how many 7s will pass along the way? I'm going to skip this one. Again, there's not much to explain there. 2 men starting at the same point walk in opposite directions for 4 meters, turn left, walk another 3 meters. What is the distance between them? Again, if you're good with numbers, this is going to be very obvious. It's one of the most common right triangles. It's called the 3, 4, 5 right triangle. It's one of the Pythagorean triples. And so I know that my hypotenuse of this triangle is a 5. So if one leg is a 3, one leg is a 4, the hypotenuse is a 5. So because the two people are both going away from each other, it would be double that. It would actually be 2 hypotenuses of a triangle, and that would mean it would be 10. Okay, then we have a few where we have to understand what a proverb means. This favors native English speakers for sure. If you're not a native English speaker, these are pretty much impossible. So they ask you, birds of a feather flock together. What does this mean? So first, what I like to do as far as strategy is I always put something in my own words, which solidifies my comprehension of what I'm doing. So in my own words, birds of a feather flock together means that similar people tend to get drawn to each other and spend the most time together. So then when I look at this, a man is known by the company he keeps is the closest one to my summary or my prediction. Okay, this is very similar to the last one. Again, I read it, I come up with what I think it means in my own words, and then I look at the answer choices and try to find the closest one to my prediction. So don't count your chickens until they're hatched. In my own words, that would mean don't count on a certain outcome until it actually happens. And then this one about not relying on something until it actually happens is the closest to my prediction. Which vowel comes midway between J and T? There's no strategy to this. If you know your alphabet, you can figure that out. So I'm just going to skip that one. Okay, this next one is very common on what I actually saw in the real Mensa test. And this is a abstract puzzle where they give you a series of shapes and they ask you what shape would come after, and you have to diagnose what the pattern is. So again, I try to verbalize in my head the pattern. So I have 2 circles and the colors are reversing. So I would expect a hexagon with the colors reversed. And then we have another number one where we're looking at numbers in a series. Now, right away, I've noticed that typically with numbers in a series, the numbers tend to go up as you go along. And if they don't do that, where they're kind of erratic, usually the pattern has to do with looking at every other number. So that's just a little hint. That's what I've noticed with series where they kind of go up and down, then up and down, instead of that incline that you usually see with a series. So here, if I look at every other one, I'm looking at odds. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So the next one would be 11. And then here, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So the next one would be 5. So 11, 5. So again, the hint is when you're seeing like erratic numbers going up, down, up, down. Look at every other one. Here we have another visual one about completing the series. So I like to look at the elements separately on these puzzles. So what I'm noticing is, for example, the diagonal line, it goes from left to right, upper right, lower left, upper right, lower left. So I would expect the next one to probably be on the upper right, which leaves me with these two options. Now I look at the other lines and what pattern is happening. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 at the top, 2 at the top, 3 at the top, 4 at the top, 1. So I'm not seeing a pattern right away. At the bottom I have 1, 4, 3. They always equal to 6. Okay, what's happening here is I'm seeing a 1, a 3, and a 5 skipping, and here 4, 2, 5, 3, 1, and a 2, 4 again. So what that tells me is I'm probably going to have a 0, so I'm going to say it's this one. We have another series. In this series, we're just increasing, so you don't need to think about the strategy of skipping numbers. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. This is another one where I just see it right away because I do a lot of math and I tutor math. So to me, it's obvious that these are all prime numbers and that the next one's 17. But again, this is not teachable. You either do a lot of work with math and you know it or you don't. I would say that when I do have those series, I also look for patterns. So are they all even? Are they all odd? Are they increasing by small amounts, big amounts, erratic amounts? And that helps me deduce where the pattern is. Okay, series of letters. In this one, again, I'm seeing where letters tend to repeat themselves. So that's something else that you can take away with you. Look at when the letters repeat. BAC, then BDC, then EDF. So these two Ds are repeating, these two Bs are repeating, the Cs are repeating. Okay, again, because it's erratic, make sure you check that trick of looking at every other one, and this is that case, because you have B, C, D, E, F, leapfrogging, and then A, B, C, D, so the next one would be E. Okay, this one's a little bit hard to see because you need to be able to tell if those lines are connected to the pedal or not. And I'm going to skip this one. Okay, this one's neat. We have a series, but the middle one is missing. Okay, again, this is another one that's very obvious to me, but I'm increasing a lot. So when I see the numbers increasing a lot, my mind immediately thinks about exponential growth. So I'm thinking about squares or cubes, and right away I can tell this is cubes. So this is 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed. The next one would be 4 cubed, which would be 4 times 4, which is 16, and then 16 times 4, which is 64. Here again, they want you to find the missing number. This one is increasing. It does get bigger as you go along. The other thing I'm noticing is we have 2 repeated ones. And When I see increasing patterns, another thing I look at is if the terms something happens with the terms before it. Either they're added or multiplied. And in this case, they're added. So 0 and 1 is 1, 1 and 1 is 2, 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 2 is 5, 5 and 3 is 8, 8 and 5 is 13, 13 and 8 is 21. I'm going to skip these scrambled words. I'm not very good at these to begin with, and quite honestly, I find them very difficult, and I'm not sure what the strategy would be here other than you're trying to match letters that are commonly found near each other. So again, this would favor people who read a lot, native English speakers, people who are great at spelling. Okay, they want to know what the word is coiled around. This one's a little easier because you at least know the letters are in the right order. They're actually not in the right order because I'm seeing stronger. I'm going to skip number 19. 20, you can just count those up. Not much to say about this one. I'm going to skip 20. But when I look at the answer choices, this is a strategy you can use on the test. Estimation would be great because besides 25 and 28, all the answer choices are very spread apart. So when I see that, I know that estimating is the way to go, especially when you only have like a minute per problem on this test. If a circle is 1, how many is an octagon? 8, because it has 8 sides. 8 lines, and a circle is just 1 line. I'm going to skip a few here. Okay, 23 is really fun. I actually enjoy these. I post these in my Facebook group and on Instagram a lot. I just find them a lot of fun. They're not that hard to figure out. For example, I start with the top row is an obvious one to start with because you have all the same fruit. You have the apple equaling to 28. So then you know if you do 28 divided by 4, the apple would be 7. Then you can figure out the next row. 2 apples, that's 14. 30 minus 14, that's 16 divided by 2. The banana is 8. So I'm just going to write this down. So apple, 7, banana, 8. Okay, then it starts getting tricky because you have 2 rows with 2 equations. So you might need to do a little bit of algebra here where we have 1 apple, 1 banana. So that would be 15. You have 5 left. So I know cherry plus strawberry equals 5. And then the bottom row, I know that 2 strawberry plus cherry equals 8. And then I do a little bit of algebra. Okay, the strawberry is equal to 3, which means our cherry is equal to 2. So then I have 2 apples, 14, plus a banana, 22, plus a strawberry, 3. So my answer is 25 for that one. Here's a logic problem. There are 1,200 elephants in a herd. Some have pink and green stripes. Some are all pink. Some are all blue. 1/3 are pure pink. Is it true that 400 elephants are definitely blue? All we know is that 400 are pink, but they don't tell us anything about the ones that are pink and green or the ones that are all blue. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to skip 25. skip 26. These are more word problems. Number 29. So I actually saw this one on the test, except it was in visual form, where they would have like a series of maybe 5 or 6 pictures, and you had to decide which one didn't belong. So in this case, the flower doesn't belong because it's natural, and others are man-made art. Last problem. Pear is to apple as potato is to, so pear and apple are both fruits. So I'm probably looking for another vegetable. So we're going to go with radish, and we're done. So that's it for today. If you'd like to join my Facebook group or find me on Instagram and do puzzles along with the rest of us, please join us. It's a lot of fun. I also do virtual online tutoring. So if you want to learn about that, you can email me at hellosharpcookie@gmail.com. Again, be sure to watch the other videos about Mensa, especially if you're thinking about taking the test soon. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you found the video helpful, please like it. Also, consider subscribing. I post new videos every week. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Janice. Bye.